So, I've had the S22 Ultra for about a month now. Time to find out what I think of it. What's up guys, welcome back to Michael's Tech Talk. S22 Ultra. So this is Samsung's new flagship phone, and this is the kind of unofficial replacement of the Note. RIP to the Note, but I'm just going to call this the Snote, because it's just a Note, really, in my opinion. So why they just didn't call it the S22 Note, I don't know. Anybody that likes the Note and never had the Note, yeah, this is what you're going for. So, first impressions. This time I went for the Phantom White, which is a bit different for me because I always go for the Phantom Black, you know, the matte black phones, and that's usually what I go for. And for some reason, I went for something different. I did for a split second want to go and look at some of the exclusive colours, but when I was ordering, it said there was a 7-week wait, and I was like, nah, I'm not waiting 7 weeks for that. So I thought, do you know what, I'll go a bit different, and I was toying with the green and the white, and I went for the white. And I must say, photos and under cameras and lights and all this sort of stuff, it doesn't do this justice. This is like a metallic pearlescent white, and it really is a stunning colour, I will say, and I really dig it. So I didn't think I would, especially with the silver edges, I didn't think I would be keen on it, but I do like it. Not that I've seen much of it because I've kept it in a case. But I mean, yeah, I mean, it is a big phone. It is sort of, it's a little bit narrower than a 13 Pro Max, just to give you a bit of perspective as to how wide this thing is. It's definitely wider than what the S21 Ultra would have been, but it's not as wide as the iPhone. Obviously without a case, it gives you an indication of the size. Also, those cameras on the back as well are pretty unique, and straight away you know it's an S22 Ultra. First impressions, it is a good looking phone. So the front and the back are both Gorilla Glass Victus, so you're going to get a lot of protection if you drop this phone. Now, that's not going to stop you from scratches. Thankfully for me, I have had this in a case from day one. It's literally here, it's on the table in front of me because I've just taken it out for this video because I'm not brave. I'm not brave at all. You're not going to be safe from scratches. I've seen some guys on Twitter that have been posting up pictures of scratches on their phones after a very short period of time. So they're not going to be scratch resistant, but they are going to be pretty strong if you drop them. So this comes with Android 12 with Samsung's One UI launcher on the phone. So Samsung users, you're going to be familiar with it. It's not going to be anything new to you, and you're going to have all those exclusive Samsung features, the likes of Bixby and Samsung Dex and things like that there. You know, so One UI is really great on this. I must say, it's gotten very, very clean compared to what Samsung phones would have been in terms of, you know, you'd get a build of a Samsung phone and the bloatware, and it would just be laggy and buggy. One UI, the latest version, I must say, is pretty good on this. Let's talk a little about specs. So this is a 6.8 inch AMOLED display. This screen has 120 Hz adaptive refresh rate, and Samsung say this can go all the way down to 1 Hz. So with your always on display and things like that there, it's supposed to be a battery saver. Up to 1750 nits of peak brightness, so this screen can get super bright when you have it out in the daylight. So yeah, can't fault the display. Display is. This also has because we're in the UK, this is the Exynos 2200 4nm chip. If you're not aware, the US markets and the Asian markets get the Snapdragon chips, and the UK, some of Europe I believe, get Exynos, but I'll also get into that a bit later as well. This is the 256 gig model, so this comes with 12 gig of RAM. This is all the other phones from 256 gig up come with 12 gig of RAM. The 128 gig only comes with 8, so bear that in mind when you're buying. And storage options go all the way up to 1 TB as well. 15 watt wireless charging and 45 watt fast charging as well, although you don't get the 45 watt brick with it, you have to buy that. Pretty standard stuff with phones nowadays. This also comes packing a 5000 mAh battery, so it is a pretty big battery that's in this phone. It is IP68 water and dust resistant, so you can submerge it up to 1.5 meters for 30 minutes. So you're well protected if you drop it into the sink or the toilet. On the cameras. So on the back we have the main camera, which has the 108 megapixel sensor, which is pretty beastly. We have a 10 megapixel telephoto lens, along with a 10 megapixel periscope telephoto lens, as well as your 12 megapixel ultra wide as well. So this phone is well stacked in the camera department for sure. I won't mention the 100 times zoom because it's just shit. And on the front end we have the 40 megapixel selfie camera as well, which again is pretty beastly. So again, as I mentioned, battery, 5000 milliamp hour battery, which is pretty good considering that this phone has to house the S Pen. It's cramming a 5000 milliamp hour battery in this, and it's still got the dimensions it has. It's a pretty good achievement, I will say. And of course, how could we talk about this Note without talking about the S Pen? So the S Pen, if you've been a Note user, the S Pen is something that you're going to love. And if you haven't ever used a Note, but this is your first forte into this type of device, the S Pen is something that I personally think that you'll really like. Years ago, I used to think the S Pen was just a gimmick, to be honest, but the functionality of the S Pen now has come along so much, and you know, it's hard to argue with it. Samsung have made so many good improvements with the S Pen, and like the response time of the S Pen used to be 9 milliseconds, which is fantastic, and now this S Pen response time is down to 2.8 milliseconds, which is just crazy. So when you're writing and taking notes with this thing, it's literally like you're just writing on a piece of paper. It is crazy. Before we get on to the pros and cons, guys, if you like the video, smash that like button for me. Massively appreciate it. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Massively helps me on the channel and helps me get my videos out into the ether. And of course, if you haven't already, ring that little bell and you'll be notified of new videos just like this one. Let's do some pros and cons. My favourite part, so let's start with the pros. I do like the design of this phone. This phone, again, is, the minute you see it, you know what it is. It's an S22 Ultra. It is sleek. The colour is phenomenal, and I'll be honest, Samsung are really killing it with their colours of their phones at the minute, I must say. This is no exception. So the design of this phone is, yeah, baby. The display, I mean, what's not to love? Samsung have always been the go-to guys when it comes to display technology, and this is no exception. 120 Hz adaptive refresh rate, so this phone can go all the way up to 120 Hz and fall all the way down to 1 Hz. You can't say anything bad about that. And if you're out on a bright sunny day, this phone can go up to 1750 nits of peak brightness, which is crazy. This is super bright. The colours are sharp, crisp and vibrant. You know, if you've been rocking a Samsung flagship phone, you know how good the screens are. This is no exception. 256 gig and above models come with 12 gig of RAM. So that's always a good thing to have, especially in a big flagship phone. You want to be able to have as much resource at your needs as possible, and this here is the 256 gig model, so this does have 12 gig of RAM. This has coped well with everything I've threw at it, and I haven't had many issues with apps going in and having to refresh them and stuff. They've just been sitting there in the memory, which is pretty good. Top notch. 45 watt fast charging as well. That's not to be sniffed at. You could plug that in and it's charged in no time. Even charging this thing with a 20 watt brick charges pretty quickly, so a 45 watt brick, no brainer. It's pretty awesome, although you do have to buy it separately. So Samsung have went down the same route that Apple have went down, albeit that they mocked them for it, and then they did the same thing themselves. And of course, the fingerprint reader. Now, the fingerprint reader is the only form of authentication that I use on this phone because it is phenomenal. Ultrasonic sensor built into the display. This is literally hands down the best fingerprint sensor you can get in a smartphone that goes into the display. Hands down. It works flawlessly every single time. Every single time. Google, take note, because Samsung have it nailed. And the cameras, what's not to say? Samsung flagship quad cameras. Samsung do seem to have made massive improvements on the way their image processing works, and I will be honest, I've yet to find pictures on this which I don't like, if I'm honest. And using an iPhone myself, I have a Pro Max, and I'll be honest, I've always thought the camera on it was pretty hard to beat. Some of the portrait mode shots that have come out of this phone are pretty good. Pretty hard to fault Samsung's image processing at the minute. As much as I would like to, it's pretty good. That's my pros. Unfortunately, with the ups, gotta come the downs, and here come my cons that I have with this phone. First up, as good as the display is on this phone, I don't like curved displays. I don't like curved displays. I don't like the shape of this rounding off at the edges. To me, it's just a weakness in the phone. And I'll tell you why. Unless you are super confident in the Gorilla Glass Victus that's on this phone, you're not going to be rocking a case. And you know what? More power to you, because I haven't got the guts to do that. So more power to you. However, I rock this in a case. If you need a case for the S22 Ultra, by the way, I'll link you in the description to my case review for the S22 Ultra. So go check it out. Check this bad boy out. However, back to topic. I do not like how exposed the sides of the screen are. I don't care what anybody says. The minute this falls face down, that's getting hit on that side of that display. And I'm not okay with that. Curved displays as well, especially with the lips. When I find when I'm using the S Pen, when I'm taking notes and I'm sort of, if I want to go all the way out to the edge of the screen, because I have a case, it's cutting off part of the display as well. So again, curved displays, I think they've had their time, and I think they just need to naff off now. I think this would be a much nicer phone. See these dimensions? If these dimensions had the body style of the S22 Plus, which housed the S Pen, give me that phone. Yeah, I said it. As I mentioned with the RAM, you need to make sure you pick the right storage option, because if you go for the 128 version of the S22 Ultra, you're going to get 8GB of RAM. 8GB of RAM, to be truthfully honest, in this day and age in a phone is not a slouch by any means, but if you want that 12GB, you need to spend that extra money to get those storage options. So again, my personal opinion, regardless of storage, you should have 12GB of RAM in a flagship phone. Speakers. I will be honest, the speakers on this phone really disappointed me. I thought that they sounded a bit tinny. I thought they sounded a bit cheap, and it just wasn't the quality I was expecting for a £1,250 phone. When I compared it to other phones, even I'm not even gonna lie about it. I did compare this to the iPhone, and the iPhone is much better in terms of sound. But also, when it comes to sound, the S22 Plus doesn't sound as bad as this phone. Disappointing. Onto the big thing, battery. This phone should be the battery king of smartphones. This phone has a 5000 mAh battery. This phone should be smashing every phone out there, and it's not. I struggle to get 6 hours of screen on time with this phone, and this is after a month worth of use and a month of the phone learning my usage, adapting and all that sort of thing. This should be a lot better than what it is. 6 hours on this type of phone with this size of battery is just not good enough. Nobody can tell me different. That is not good enough for this. Definitely not. And with that leads me on to my last con, which would be Exynos. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, the everyday performance of this phone is not bad by any way, shape or form, but it is apparent that it is behind the Snapdragon counterpart. I'm not going to compare it to the iPhone, but Exynos for me has been a bit of a disappointment. I have had intermittent issues with this phone when I'm sort of doing things with a bit of load. If I'm watching some 4K content and then I'm flicking between apps, I would get a bit of jutter, a bit of lag when I'm switching between these sorts of apps. And again, I'm not sure if that's a performance problem with the chip. I don't know if that's an Android problem. I don't know if that's a One UI problem. And that's sort of where being an iPhone user kind of spoils me, because Apple are doing everything for the iPhone. So Apple are designing their hardware, they're optimizing their software for the chip that goes into their phone to get the maximum optimization and the maximum they can out of those chips. And the fact that this thing has a 5000 mAh battery and it can't even touch the iPhone Pro Max, and it has a 4300 mAh battery, like 700 milliamps less of a battery. That thing does 10 hours screen on time, no issues. I can get, on a day-to-day use, I can get 2.5 days out of my 13 Pro Max. This is where this should be. I don't know, is it a lack of optimization for Android, for One UI, for the chip? Is it a mixture of all three? I don't know. I can't answer that. All I know is it does lack in that department. From what I have seen, the Snapdragon counterpart is better. It performs better, and again, on the other side, I have heard of other things as well, like it's got very, very bad thermals. When I was doing my camera test on this phone, I was out shooting, you know, photos and 4K video and all that sort of thing, and after 10 minutes of sort of using it, I could feel the phone noticeably warm. Granted, it sort of comes with the territory of shooting 4K video, but again, I've never felt a phone get so warm so quickly. I still think there's work to be done, in my honest opinion. I mean, Samsung say, yes, Exynos, it's our chip, we make it, it's a great thing. If it was that great, they would be putting it into their bigger markets. They would be putting it into the US, they would be putting it into Asia, but they're not. And that speaks volumes, in my opinion. I think the option should be there for Snapdragon or Exynos in all markets. And I think there should be a price difference, in my honest opinion. I don't know, what do you guys think? I'd love to know your opinions. Let me know down below. Have you got the S22 Ultra? Have you had any issues with it? Are you in the UK or in the US? By all means, leave me a comment. I'd love to hear if you've had any issues, or if you haven't, I'd love to hear that as well. So yeah, leave me a comment, let me know. That about wraps it up for this video, guys. I hope you liked it. For me, this is a complete impartial video. I mean, in a lot of ways, I really like this phone, and in some ways, it reminded me why I don't use Android as a daily driver. Now, don't get me wrong, throughout the year, I do dual carry and I do use iOS alongside Android. I do it every day, and I have done for a long, long time. But if you were to ask me, would I switch my daily driver from an iPhone to one of these? Not yet. I just couldn't. Not yet. I hope you liked the video. If you did, hit that like button for me. Massively appreciate it. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 1,000 subs. As soon as we get there, I'm going to do a tech giveaway. So keep it locked to the channel for that, guys. And as always, if you want to be notified of videos just like this one, ring that little bell. Until the next one, guys, I'll catch you later.